People always ask why I refuse to drive through tunnels at night. I usually laugh it off and change the subject. The truth is I still can't explain what happened inside the old service tunnel beneath Black Ridge. My name is Marcus Whitfield, and this happened 3 years ago in western Pennsylvania. At the time, I worked for a communications company that repaired underground fiber optic lines. Most jobs were routine. A broken cable, a damaged junction box, nothing that ever kept me up at night. Then one Friday evening, dispatch got an emergency call. An entire rural community had lost internet and emergency communication after a storm, and the fault seemed to be inside an abandoned railway maintenance tunnel that had been converted into a utility passage decades earlier. My supervisor asked for volunteers. Nobody wanted the night shift. I took it because the overtime paid well. Around 9:30 p.m., I parked beside a rusted steel gate surrounded by thick forest. The place looked forgotten. Moss covered the concrete entrance, and faded warning signs barely hung from bent fencing. A county maintenance worker met me there to unlock the gate. "Just follow the utility markers," he said. "About a mile in." Then he hesitated like he wanted to take it back. "If you hear footsteps behind you, don't stop." I laughed. He didn't. Then he got in his truck and drove off, and I was alone with a flashlight and a bag of tools. The tunnel swallowed every sound the moment I stepped inside. Cold air drifted up from somewhere deep underground, and water dripped steadily from the ceiling. My flashlight cut through the darkness, sliding over old brick walls stained black with decades of moisture. Every few hundred feet, faded maintenance numbers were painted on the wall. Everything looked exactly the way it should, until about 20 minutes in when I noticed footprints in the mud. Bare footprints. Not old ones. Water was still slowly filling the impressions. Someone had walked through here recently. "Hello," I called out. Nothing answered except my own voice bouncing back at me. I figured another contractor had gone in ahead of me and kept walking. About 10 minutes later, I found the damaged junction cabinet. A fallen steel support had crushed part of the fiber housing. I set my tools down and got to work on the connectors. That's when I heard it. One slow footstep behind me. A splash. I froze. The tunnel went dead silent again. I turned around. Nothing there, just darkness past the reach of my flashlight. I waited almost 30 seconds. No movement, no sound. I told myself it was just water dripping somewhere and went back to work. Then another step. Closer. A splash. I spun around immediately this time. Still nothing, even though my flashlight reached nearly 200 feet down the tunnel. Every instinct in my body said someone was standing just past the light watching me. I packed my gear faster than I've ever packed anything in my life. As I zipped my tool bag shut, I noticed the footprints again. There were more of them now. Dozens. All barefoot. All pointing toward me. Not one of them pointed away. I stared at them, trying to make it make sense. There was only one direction they could have come from, and yet I hadn't seen a single person pass by. A low scraping sound echoed from somewhere. Ahead, metal dragging across concrete, slow and deliberate. Then just stopped. My radio crackled. Static, and then a man's voice whispered through it. "Don't let it reach the light." The transmission cut out. I checked the display. No incoming signal. Just static. I tried calling dispatch. Nothing but white noise answered me. My flashlight flickered. Once. Twice. Then every light in that tunnel went completely dark, and for 3 of the longest seconds of my life, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. When my flashlight came back on, I almost screamed. Someone was standing about 50 feet away, facing me, completely still. The figure was soaked through, wearing what looked like an old railroad worker's jacket caked in dirt. Its head hung low. Its arms rested at its sides in a way that didn't look natural. "Hey, are you okay?" I shouted. No response. I took one cautious step back. The figure copied me, not forward, backward, matching my movement exactly. I stepped left. It stepped left. Exactly. Like a reflection, except reflections don't stand 50 feet away from you. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my own ears. I raised the flashlight higher, letting the beam finally reach its face. There wasn't one. Where eyes, a nose, a mouth should have been, there was only smooth, pale skin stretched tight across the front of its head. The thing tilted its head slightly. Then every battery I was carrying died at once, and the darkness swallowed everything. The next sound came from right beside my ear. A slow inhale. Not mine. Something was standing next to me in the dark. I ran. I didn't care about the equipment anymore. I sprinted through ankle-deep water as fast as my legs would move, and behind me bare feet slapped against wet concrete. Not one pair. Several. They stayed just close enough that I could hear them, never catching up, never falling behind. Every few seconds the footsteps would stop completely, then suddenly sound closer, like whatever was making them wasn't running at all, like it was simply appearing again and again, a little nearer each time. Then I saw it. The faint glow of moonlight at the tunnel entrance. Relief hit me like a wave, and I pushed even harder. That's when I heard the whisper right behind my shoulder. "You forgot someone." I looked back. That was a mistake. At least 20 pale, faceless figures stood spread across the width of the tunnel. None of them were moving, and yet somehow they were closer than they'd been a second ago. I burst through the entrance and collapsed against my truck, chest heaving. The county worker was still waiting there, and his expression changed the moment he saw my face. "You look back," he said quietly. I couldn't answer. I just nodded. He helped me into the truck, and before he closed the passenger door, he glanced toward the tunnel one last time. "I told you not to stop if you heard footsteps." I asked him what lived down there. He didn't say a word the entire drive home. The following Monday, I reported the whole thing to my supervisor. He stared at me for a long moment, then walked to an old filing cabinet and pulled out a stack of accident reports going back almost 40 years. Several workers had disappeared inside that same tunnel over the decades. Others had quit after reporting barefoot footprints, voices coming through dead radios, and people with no faces standing in the dark. The tunnel was permanently sealed 6 months later after another contractor flatly refused to go in. Officially, the county listed it as a structural hazard. Nothing else. I've tried to convince myself it was stress, exhaustion. That darkness plays tricks on a tired mind. But I know what I heard breathing next to me that night. And sometimes late at night, when my house goes completely quiet, I hear wet footsteps stop just outside my bedroom door. They never knock. They just wait, like they're hoping that one night I'll finally decide to look. I've never believed that places can remember people. I do now. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and this happened in the fall of 2023 near an abandoned railway tunnel outside Blue Ridge, Georgia. I wasn't looking for ghosts. I was looking for photographs. I'm a freelance photographer, and forgotten places have always fascinated me. Old bridges, empty factories, abandoned tracks. They're quiet, untouched, and perfect for moody landscapes. One Saturday afternoon, a local man at a gas station mentioned an old railway tunnel hidden in the woods about 15 minutes away. He smiled while he gave me directions. Then he added something strange. "Don't be inside after sunset." I laughed. He didn't. I figured it was just another local ghost story meant to spook tourists. Around 5 that evening, I parked beside an old gravel road and hiked nearly a mile through dense forest until I found it. The tunnel looked older than I expected, huge stone walls, rust-covered tracks, disappearing into total darkness. It stretched so far back that I couldn't see the other side, and even standing at the entrance, the air pouring out from inside felt unnaturally cold. I switched on my flashlight, grabbed my camera, and walked in. At first, everything was normal. Water dripped from the ceiling. My footsteps echoed forever. The beam of my flashlight slid across damp brick walls thick with moss. About 300 feet, and I noticed something odd, fresh footprints, not mine, heading deeper into the tunnel. I assumed another photographer had come through earlier. Then I realized there was only one set, and none of them led back out. That stopped me for a second. "Hello," I called. Nothing answered except my own voice echoing back at me. I kept walking anyway. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. Even the dripping water stopped. The silence felt wrong, heavy, like someone had pressed mute on the entire world. Then I heard it. One slow footstep behind me. I spun around immediately. Nothing. The tunnel was empty as far as my flashlight could reach, nearly 100 feet back. No person, no animal, no movement. I told myself it was water falling somewhere behind me, turned around and kept walking. Another step. Closer this time. A crunch that matched the exact pace I'd just been walking. I stopped. The sound stopped. I started again. Crunch, crunch, something was copying me. I turned again fast. Empty. Completely empty. That's when my flashlight flickered for the first time. Only once, but long enough for the darkness to swallow everything around me. When the light came back, my stomach turned. The muddy footprints had changed direction. Now, they were walking toward me, fresh, wet, one after another, coming straight at where I stood. I backed away. My boots slipped on the wet rail, and the flashlight fell from my hand, rolling several feet ahead, its beams spinning wildly across the walls. For less than a second, the light crossed someone standing against the tunnel wall. Tall, completely still, wearing what looked like an old railroad worker's coat. Before I could focus, the flashlight rolled again. When I grabbed it and aimed it back, the wall was empty. No one there. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. Then another sound cut through the tunnel, whistle. Not loud, not distant. Right behind my left ear. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped the flashlight again. There was nobody behind me. No space for anyone to hide. Just wet stone and rusted tracks vanishing into the dark. I stopped caring about the photos. I turned and started walking back toward the entrance fast. After about 30 seconds, I realized something impossible. The tunnel should have ended by now. I'd only walked about 10 minutes coming in, but I'd already been walking back for far longer than that, and the entrance never appeared. The darkness ahead looked exactly the same. Same walls, same water stains, same cracked brick. I checked my phone. No signal. The clock read 6:42, then jumped to 6:18, then to 6:51 before the screen froze completely. A deep metallic bang echoed from somewhere ahead, like a train coupling, slamming together. Then another closer each time. The abandoned tracks began vibrating under my boots. I froze. There hadn't been trains through here in decades. The vibration kept building until I could actually hear wheels grinding on rail. A train was coming, but there were no lights, no engine, only the sound. Instinct took over, and I pressed myself flat against the tunnel wall. The noise exploded. Wind ripped past me so hard my jacket whipped against my body. Dust filled the air, and the rails screamed under invisible weight. For almost 15 seconds, something passed directly beside me. I saw nothing, only darkness. Then all at once, silence. Every sound disappeared again. I stepped back onto the tracks, slowly, and noticed fresh boot prints surrounding me. Dozens of them, different sizes, different directions, as if an entire group of people had been standing around me while the invisible train tore past. None of those prints had been there seconds before. I backed away. Then one print appeared right in front of me, pressed into the wet mud. No foot, just a shape forming out of nothing. Another appeared closer, then another closer still. Something unseen was walking straight toward me. I ran. I didn't look back. The footsteps followed, matching my speed exactly. The louder I ran, the louder they got. Then I saw daylight at the tunnel entrance. I sprinted the last 100 feet and burst out into the evening air. The forest went completely silent. No footsteps, no whistle, nothing. I leaned against my truck, trying to catch my breath, and that's when I noticed mud smeared across the passenger door. Fresh handprints. 5 long fingers stretched across the glass, and I knew for a fact they hadn't been there before. I threw my gear in the truck, locked the doors, and drove away without looking back once. When I got home, I uploaded the photos. Most of them were normal dark walls, old tracks, broken brick. Then I got to the last image, the one taken just before my flashlight fell. Standing beside the tunnel wall was the figure I'd seen. Tall head lowered, wearing a railroad uniform, caked in dirt. But that wasn't the worst part. When I zoomed in, I could see 6 more people standing behind me in the frame, every one of them facing my back. None of them had been visible while I was taking the picture. I deleted every file that night. A week later, curiosity got the better of me, and I drove back out to the tunnel. The gravel parking spot was still there. The trail was still there, but the tunnel itself was gone. Just a solid rock wall stood where the entrance used to be. I haven't told many people this story because I know exactly how impossible it sounds. But I still hear that whistle, sometimes, usually late at night, always close to my left ear.